Hello, and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, here's what we're going to do this evening. We're going to make a quick trip to Costa Rica. That'll be in a hurry. We want a marlin report from Craig Sutton, where they're wrapping up their season for this year. Their calendar's a lot different than ours, because our seasons, for some of us, is just getting started. The mullet run is about to kick off. We're waiting for a northeaster. Haven't had it yet. It'll be here soon enough, and then everything changes. And I've got a question for the boys tonight. We're going to work our way down the East Coast and up the West Coast. You know, there's a lot of great success stories going on that we don't talk about often enough. One of them being mullet. We have brought back mullet fantastically since the old gillnet days. Redfish are in great shape. It looks like we may be making some progress with flounder. Sea trout, I'm not so sure. You know what? Maybe it's time to stop and look and see, are we winning or losing? There's some fights that I'm sure we're losing. We've suffered terribly in cobia numbers. Kingfish in a lot of places don't seem what they used to be. There are some fish that are certainly hurting. Gag grouper comes to mind. Oh, my goodness. But there are some that we're winning. So are we going to be in better shape 5 years, maybe even 10 years down the road than we are now? I don't know, but I know the guys to ask, and we're going to get it started right now by checking in with Craig Sutton from Nassara Paradise Rentals. Tonight's Action Spotter will be brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum. Oh, it's the best chum on earth, all right. By Nassara Paradise Rentals, your dream billfish destination. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. By Young Boats, you want the finest in flat, spay, and offshore hybrids, check out youngboats.com. By the Castaway Hat Company, the hat that's helping save our seas. And by Academy Sports and Outdoors, right stuff, low price, every day. All right, we're going to get our evening kicked off this evening with a quick trip to Nassau, Costa Rica, where they're kind of wrapping things up for the season. They got rain on the way, and maybe it's time to do a little work on the boats and such. Craig, what's going on down in Garza?
Yeah, you kind of summed it up. We started pulling the boats Friday, and we got one more to pull tomorrow. We're going to pull the Explorer. You know, getting ready to start doing our maintenance. But, you know, I hate to say it, but we're not getting the rain yet. I'm thinking it's going to start with this full moon tomorrow night or tonight. But, you know, we've had some tropical depressions in the Gulf, and they have a tendency to dry us out. They kind of suck the moisture out of that Central America. But, you know, worry about what you can control. And, you know, it's time. These guys are, the Wonder Discover. They've done about 250 trips plus. They're tired. They need a vacation.
Buddy, I got to tell you, I can remember a lot of days in a row as a charter boat mate back in the day. And, whew, I have learned that, yes, I can sleep right through a 24-hour day.
Well, when you do, you go a 90-day span and you sit 5 days. That's pretty strong.
Yep, you know? Yep. How did the fishing end up?
Real good, man. Double marlin, you know, a few of the big mahi. I did talk to, and I may have said it last week too. We had a client that fought a tuna. They got it to the boat like 4 or 5 times. They saw the fish. It was a 200-plus pound.
Ooh!
Come on. Yeah, he come unplugged right at the boat. With, you know, those big yellowfin, there's just no quitting.
No.
And, you know, Dave Marciano told me, pound for pound, and this is after he caught a few of our yellowfin, too. And he told me a pound for pound, a yellowfin is a harder fight fish than a bluefin.
I'll be darned. Well, he would know, captain of the hard merch. He would know. Hey, Craigie, the hard merch, otherwise known as a 43-foot ashtray.
Yeah. Well, you know, he redid the boat during COVID.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, it came out really nice, and I was supposed to go fish with him a couple days before or after the Wilmington show, and he ended up booking up, and that was fine with me. But I'm anxious to see the project. He did it. It was pretty massive. They extended the cabin, changed the transom on the boat, put a new engine in it, changed all the windows out. You know, it looked to me like a pretty good little project, but I'm anxious to see it. I love those boat builds.
Oh, yeah. Good deal. I know you do. Craigie, we appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely.
Before I let you go, all right?
Yes, sir.
Even though the fishing is wrapping up for the year, the booking is just getting started, okay? I need to know when to take my 2-week vacation next year to come to Nassau. When should I come?
You know, when for guys like you, Ricky, I tell them it's June, July, and August. And for you, come in August, I'll be down there. We'll fish together. And it's just the year closes out so strong. It's sometimes, and I really mean this, it's almost depressing as an operator to see these massive, unbelievably great catches, and the boats are on the hill. Yeah.
I know what you mean. But now, will you do a lot of business down there at Christmas around the first of the year? Does that vacation mean anything to you?
Oh, yeah. You know, we've got days we're now blocked off. Yeah, you know, not all month, but it seems like the center part of the month is our high demand. But, you know, we still got a few dates in Christmas open, too.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you, Cap. We'll talk with you next week.
All right, Ricky. Thank you, sir.
Craig Sutton from Nassau Paradise Fishing with a great report. 200-pound tuna. No, there ain't no quitting that one. All right, let's get started with the state of Florida. Now, that's where home is. Let's start up in the northeast corner with one Captain David Voorhees. David, how are you?
Hey, Rick, I'm doing good, buddy. Doing good.
Good. Yeah, me too. I tell you, I've been without talking to you for the last week. I'm going through withdrawals or something. How was your week's fishing?
Well, you know, it was pretty good. We had finally this weekend. We finally had low outgoing tides early in the morning, which we haven't been fishing that lately. We've had that high water early in the morning, but you know me, I like that. I like that outgoing tide. I like to fish that low tide when the reds and the trout and the flounder, everything concentrates. And we had some pretty good days this past weekend. Saw lots of fish. You know, as much as we hate it, summer's still here. As much as we want fall to be here, it's still hot. It's still summer. The summer species are still here. The water temperature's still up there. You know, every day this week we caught no less than 9 to 10 different species. Now, we did have some good reds, and one thing I'm noticing about these reds is when we get these warmer water temperatures, they tend to go deeper. And I love this deep water jigging. We found some really good reds up near the river in deep, deep water, and they were, believe it or not, they were sort of schooled up. The spawning reds are starting to show up. We're not in the big numbers of them yet, which I find unusual. A lot of the guys I talk to, they're finding it unusual. Usually by now we're seeing a lot of the big spawners in the St. Johns River, but it's just a matter of time. You know how these fish are. You know, one day you could wake up and they're not be there, and then the next day, boom, they're all here.
Everywhere.
I mean, yeah, that's the way fish migrate. It's an unbelievable migration, and I think we're going to start seeing the big spawners come up into the river here any day now.
David, I've got a question for you. All right.
Yep.
We have got the St. Johns River is jam-packed full of shrimp, jam-packed full of mullet. Our redfish fishing, I think we've really got it dialed in regulations-wise. I think we've ensured that we're going to have redfish. There's a lot of fisheries I feel good about. There's other fisheries I don't feel good about at all. David, are we winning or losing? 5 years down the road, the fish that you fish for, reds, trout, flounder primarily, is it going to be better or is it not going to be as good?
Rick, I'm going to be the optimist here. I'm hoping, and you know, we don't have that crystal ball, but from what I'm seeing, you know, now Ricky, you know, I've seen these fish, and particularly redfish, sort of change their feeding habits. But I'm going to be the optimist here. I think things are getting better. You know, we've got a lot more people on the water, a lot more people fishing nowadays. So a lot of people are taking fish out. And I think the state's doing a pretty good job with the management part of the fishery. We've changed flounder, we've changed the trout, we've changed the redfish. We're always adjusting these changes. Florida has some of the strictest regulations as far as the fishery goes, I think, in the United States. But I think we're going to be fine, Rick. I really do.
I love your attitude.
Yeah, I think we're going to be fine. You're seeing an attitude change in the human people, people themselves, the fishermen. You don't see a lot of people wanting to kill fish, take fish home. They might just keep a couple of fish to take home for dinner. But, there's the days of filling your ice chest up before you go home, I think, are over with, Rick.
Well said.
Anglers now just want to take one or two fish home with them, and that's it.
Well said, David. I hope you're right. I think you're right. I certainly want to think you're right. I know this much. I can't wait to get your thoughts next week. Please tell me we can call you back then.
Absolutely, Ricky. I'll be here, buddy.
Thank you, Captain David. Captain David Voorhees with his thoughts on, are we winning? Are we losing? Our thanks to David Voorhees for a great Northeast Florida report. Time to hit East Central. That's Jimmy Ross territory. Jimmy, how are you?
Doing great this week, Rick.
Good. Has the mullet run started in your area yet?
It has. Yeah.
Oh, good.
We had those mullet that were running north, those silvers that were running north a couple of weeks ago, and then last week and this week we've had some fingerling mullet that have been coming down through the intracoastal and along the beaches. Tarpon bite is still super strong right now all through the region. Just as good as it gets. September 1st, snook opened up. In fact, I was just sitting at the dock waiting for my second half-day charter after dropping off my first half-day. Caught two legal fish just sitting there tied to the dock. Yeah. So, they're here. If you want to catch a snook and potentially take one home for dinner, the season's open and we've got them. The one thing that everybody in this region needs to remember, though, is that September 1st was also the closure of our redfish in the Intracoastal Waterway. So you cannot keep a redfish south of the State Road 44 bridge in New Smyrna all the way down to the end of my region right now. And that is an indefinite closure to try to help rebound that redfish population.
Jim, we're fighting a lot of fronts, and we've got a lot of issues, some of them very imposing on the horizon. But, we've got some great success stories. In Northeast Florida, redfish is a huge success story. I think mullet and baitfish are a big success story all over the state. For your region, for the East Central and the Lagoon and the Indian River in that area, are we winning with all these all this management we're doing, or are we going to be better off or worse off in 5 years?
I'd like to say that we're winning, but I'm not really sure, Rick. I mean, with this recent redfish closure that's just gone into effect, that's obviously saying that we're not winning. But honestly, I'm not necessarily sure that it's the fish in the inshore waters that we're not winning on, because we've got more snook, we've got more tarpon, the trout are coming back, the redfish have not come back, but redfish need different requirements than some of these other fish. Redfish need grass flats. Redfish have in this region, we don't have oyster bars, we don't have spartina for them to hide in like we do. We don't have overhanging mangrove branches like they do down in the south part of the state, in the southwest part of the state. These redfish in my region need grass here, the way that the topography is set up. It's the only way that they can avoid the dolphins, and until we get grass back, the dolphins are just having an absolute field day eating all the redfish that happen to swim anywhere in these three lagoon systems.
Wow, I hadn't thought of that. Is there a plan? Do we have a plan to bring the grass back?
I'd like to say we do. There's millions and millions of dollars being spent on this Indian River Lagoon restoration and cleanup, and it is doing some good. I am surprised. In fact, I'm shocked. Even with the water temperatures being in the low 90-degree range, woo! I'm surprised at how good the water quality still is in some areas of our lagoon. However, with the recent rains that we've had, flushing those lawn fertilizers into the lagoon system and those herbicides into the lagoon systems, we are starting to see the same problems that we've had in the past. We're currently at about a 7-inch deficit for this year, and we were at a 10-inch deficit for last year. So far in 2 years, we're almost 17 inches low. That's a lot of nitrogen that has not gotten washed off of people's lawns into the lagoon system. If we can somehow get a complete ban on lawn fertilizer application, or if everybody in this county or in this area would just say, I am not going to fertilize because the lagoon system needs my help. That is the biggest thing that we need right now, because you see it every place where the water flows into the lagoon system and is now carrying, with these afternoon rains, is carrying these fertilizers into the lagoon. You see the algae bloom starting immediately right in those areas. And so it's the smoking gun, if you will.
I tell you what, I like your thoughts. I think you're right. And I'd love to see a yard sign drive in your area that says, I'm not fertilizing, the lagoon needs my help. I like that. Captain Jimmy, we appreciate it so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Look forward to it, Rick.
Thank you, Jim. Captain Jim Ross. Our thanks to Jim Ross for a great East Central report. And it's time to head on down to Stewart, my favorite little fishing village. But before we go, let's check in with Academy Sports and Outdoors. Academy Sports and Outdoors' mission is to provide fun for all by carrying all the best gear from all the top brands, including Columbia, Yeti, Costa, Penn, Shimano, and more, all at prices you're going to love. Whether you're planning on spending the day at the beach, hosting friends in the backyard, reeling in a whopper, or gearing up for the big game, Academy has a wide assortment of sports and outdoors products that will guarantee that you have fun out there. Academy's new store in Panama City is open. You need to see it to believe it. Hey, when shopping at Academy, customers will be able to take advantage of in-store services, including free assembly on grills and bikes. How about scope mounting, bore sighting, line winding, spooling, propane exchanges, and the ability to purchase hunting and fishing licenses. With Academy's best price guarantee, if you find a better advertised price elsewhere, not only will Academy match it, but they'll beat it by 5%. Okay, guys, you need to get to the Panama City store and watch out for Tampa. It's coming soon. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low prices every day. Our thanks to Jim Ross for a great East Central report. Now let's hop on down to Miami and check in with none other than Captain Ray Rocher. Ray, how are you?
I'm good, Rick. How are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding, buddy. Hey, Ray, I just got back from Minnesota. If they throw us out of Florida and we have to go up there, we won't die. Those smallmouths are kind of fun.
Yeah. Will they bite a kite bait?
I'm sure they will. Yeah.
It's just getting the crawdad on the kite.
That's right. That's the problem. Tell me how your fishing's been this week.
Kind of more of the same. I hate to give you the same report, but that's the fact. There's been, some decent sized dolphin, not as many, but some nicer sized fish out, about 10 miles off the reef, and getting kind of into that fall pattern where we see, a nice big weed line. We've noticed this week some dirty water that went way offshore, which happens every summer, especially late summer. And I think it's a byproduct of a lot of dirty water coming out of the Mississippi during the rainy season, and it kind of wraps around. I mean, that's the only thing I can really attribute it to, because it happens every year in the late summer. And when you find that, don't be afraid to keep going offshore until you find the blue water. The blue water exists.
Yeah. And if you go far enough, you're going to eventually find it, aren't you?
And when you find it, one really cool thing, if you wanted to play around with some triple tail on fly or, some light tackle, there's usually a lot of triple tail on that edge, and not as many dolphin as you would see earlier in the season, but some quality fish.
Boy, I tell you, I love playing with triple tail on my grill. That's one of my all-time favorites. And you know what? That brings up an interesting point, Ray, that I want to know about. All right, I feel like triple tail, we're in pretty good shape regulations-wise. I don't think we're in danger of over-harvesting them. Nope. You and I have both worked hard on the mahi thing. There's a lot of fish, certainly mullet with the net ban, redfish. There's a lot of fish that we've made a lot of great progress with. Ray, are we winning or losing? Are we going to be better off in 5 to 7 years because we're getting smarter with our regulations, or are we going to be worse off?
Well, I think the net ban was probably one of the single biggest accomplishments, in the fishing world in the last 30 years, because it stopped something that is really an enemy of fish populations around the world, and that's indiscriminate harvest. You can't really harvest fish in nets, especially in coastal areas where you're going to trap a lot of other fish in those nets, and of course they're going to die eventually if they don't die by harvest time. And so that's a huge deal, because that's not just the pompano or the mullet. That's lots of other species. And so the part that's left, I read an article last week where a boat was caught on the West Coast with like 2,600 and something pompano over his limit. So they're allowed to still net in like federal waters, but he was in kind of a zone he wasn't supposed to be netting. And, the big challenge we have is enforcement. So, hats off to the officers that were able to make that arrest. And I hope, we can. The problem is everybody that works so hard to follow the rules and allow the fish stocks to rebuild, it doesn't take very many people to take advantage of that and kind of set us back a long way. So enforcement's a big part of that answer, as well as, understanding that food is such a big part of the population levels of fish. When there's food, you have great results with reproduction. The reproduction rates, it's the same in the woods. You feed the deer, you feed the hogs, they have better reproduction rates. And so protecting the forage species is another kind of, overlooked aspect, in my opinion, of fishery management. And not saying that we got to ban cast nets and we got to ban, how many hooks on a sabiki, but I'm saying anything that's taking large volumes of those forage fish, would be something I would think would benefit not just the forage fish, but obviously all the predators that rely on those fish. So that's kind of the building blocks of success. And I think a lot of good rules have been made. I mean, look at, even triple tail and hog snapper. In just the last few years, they've raised the minimum size and raised the minimum size. So, you got to remember it takes a little while for that to not only get, I guess, discovered or be made known to a lot of people, because not everybody's on the cutting edge of understanding the rules. So, maybe getting those rules handed out. I mean, I made that suggestion years ago in one of the Dolphin Wahoo meetings of, get tags and a handbook, just like if you went elk hunting in Colorado, you get a handbook that shows you what's the difference between a cow elk and a cow moose, things like that educate the public. If you're going to get a license, here are the rules and the guidelines that help you understand the rules and what you're doing. So there's less of an excuse for a mistake. And then secondly, being able to manage the numbers harvested. So, I kind of got shut down on the tag thing, but I think that may even be an easier solution, or maybe a more effective solution than just voluntary reporting or even mandatory reporting. Because as we all know, once the smoke clears and a day passes, people can write down whatever they want. But if you had to tag the fish, there is no getting around that. You better have your fish tagged when you come in the harbor. So, that's just my 2 cents. I know I didn't really answer your question directly, but indirectly, those are all the things that I've seen in my years that can make a difference. Protect the forage fish, make sure that, enforcement is happening and rules are understood. And I just think there's been tons of rules created in the last 10 or 15 years that are for the most part beneficial. Some of them are a little far reaching, but red snapper, I think they're kind of going overboard on, but we're at least heading in the right direction,
Ray, we're also changing the way the fishermen think. I mean, I've seen a huge change since when I was a kid, Ray. I'm ashamed to say this, but I free gaffed over 100 pounds of spade fish one day to sell for 25 cents a pound, so I had something to pay my fuel bill. I mean, and
it was a different era.
That's how we get right. And I'm seeing a lot of change. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of guys that are up here. They argue back and forth. Are we going to keep 2 redfish? Are we going to keep 1? It doesn't matter because everybody's keeping 1. You can legalize 2 if you want to, but 90% of the fishermen are saying, all right, I think I am going to take 1 for the grill, and that's it.
I had a conversation an hour ago with a captain where, 30, 40 years ago when we were fishing out of Key Largo, when I was running a corporate boat and we were entertaining clients, if we didn't put 50 dolphin in the boat, it was considered, a so-so day. And, of course, we didn't have the 20-inch limit either, so we kept a lot of fish that were 18, 19. We didn't really keep much below that, but that's a tiny fish by today's standards. And all of those things have changed. And back then, it was applauded, Hey, you got 50 school is great. I got 100, awesome. And that's not the attitude today. So there is a lot of self-imposed regulation that is happening. And, obviously not everybody abides by it, but I would say by and large, attitudes have changed. And, think about this, not a little over 20 years ago, circle hooks were mandated for the Miami Billfish tournament. Maybe it was more like 25. And I mean, it was like a big uproar. And today, nobody blinks at it. Back when I was a kid, Grandpa killed all the sailfish and we ate them all. Nobody really does that. I mean, we have a fish die. We're not going to waste him. But at the same time, we're spending 10, 15 minutes trying to make sure they're healthy. That's what the fish needs.
I can tell you right now, and just one more point on that, and I make this point all the time. When I was a kid, if we heard over the VHF that somebody had caught a sailfish, we'd go down to see it. Now you back into that marina with a dead sailfish in your cockpit, you're going to have some questions to answer, buddy.
You got some explaining to do.
Boy, you sure do, and I for one am thrilled to see it. Ray, your information is always so spot on and vital to us. I appreciate you so much, and please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yes, sir.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils.
What?
Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is a mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Our thanks to Ray Rocher for a great Miami report and his thoughts on our fisheries. Now let's head on down to Alamorada and check in with Captain Brandon Storen. Brandon, how are you?
I'm great, Rick. How you been?
I'm doing fine, son. Doing excellent. Just got back from Minnesota. That's a long ways up there,
My God.
Who'd I lose a bet to? Tell me about your fishing this week.
You know what? Yesterday was the first time I got to go fishing over a week, and I actually got to run 2 charters yesterday. The coolest part about that is I did 2 completely different things on both charters. I got to go out front on the Atlantic Ocean in the morning. I went to go backcountry in the Everglades in the afternoon. One of the luxuries of fishing here in Alamorada.
Cool. How was it?
It was great. I kind of wanted to, for the morning half, test out the patch reefs, the shallow reefs that start to really light up in fall and winter time.
for a wide variety of species: yellowtail snapper, mangrove snapper, lane snapper, porgies, hogfish, groupers, black groupers, red groupers, gag groupers, mutton snappers, so zero mackerels. It's one of my favorite fishings to do down here. So I wanted to check it out, even though some would argue it might be a little early for that, but it was still phenomenal. Filled up the box with our limit of yellowtail and mangrove snappers on ultralight tackle.
Excellent.
Yep. Caught a couple zero mackerels, a big barracuda. And I also believe we got rocked up by a couple groupers too. So
that's a sweet day. How was the backcountry?
Backcountry was gorgeous. It started really slick out. As a customer, I've took fishing a number of times before, and he wanted triple tail and triple tail only. So we focused our sights on that. We did really well for the amount of time we fished. We've caught a lot of triple tail, but a lot of them the same exact size, like 17 and a half inches. It's kind of funny, but there's still a big number of them. And one thing that was really cool that I noticed when I was out there was I saw a lot of tarpon activity while we were looking for triple tails. There's a lot of free jumping and rolling tarpon. I mean, if I came for that, I know we could have had a field day in the afternoon back there.
Hey, Brandon, let me ask you a quick question, if I could, please.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the 17-inch triple tail. Well, what that tells me is that the 18-inch size limit is right.
That's right.
That we're taking those 18-inch fish and bigger, but we're preserving the species by keeping the smaller ones. Now, let me ask you: is it just that we're just got so many more people? What I want to know, with these regulations we're passing, triple tail being a classic example, we've done so much to help redfish. We're helping the forage fish. We're doing all this. Are we winning, Brandon, or are we losing?
You know what? I actually talked to another captain today, and I don't want to take up a ton of your time, but one thing I told him that I noticed between the end of summer last year and the end of summer this year was the end of summer last year, I saw a lot of newborn triple tails around, like littered throughout the area, like little 4-inch fish, like little itty bitties that were born earlier this summer. This year, I've not seen that. So it's scary because last year was absolutely phenomenal, and this year has been really good action, but not a lot of big ones. Every year is different. I want to say this: no matter what, tightening the regulations is only going to benefit. Yep. Moving the tail from 16 to 18 is only going to benefit. But it is just weird how this summer I haven't seen as many big fish as I saw last summer.
Well, we're always going to have cycles, and I understand that. And fishing isn't going to consistently get better every year. But we talk so much about water quality problems and so many issues facing the fisheries. It seems to me like we're also winning some battles, and I kind of think triple tail would be one of those.
I think that if I had to just answer the question, are we winning or losing for triple tails, I would say we're winning, because I could still, take you out there and most of the times put you on at least 20 triple tails.
Woo.
Now, the question is, am I going to put you on 20 of them that are 17 and 17 3/4 of an inch, and maybe walk away with a couple keepers? You know what I mean? Yesterday afternoon, I had 2 trips, a little bit shorter on time. We walked away catching, I think, 20 to 25 triple tails, but not one of them was a keeper.
That's okay. That's okay. That's our future.
Right. But you know what, though? The people had a blast. They can't wait to do that again. And, I want to say we were winning that battle, long story short, because there's still a large number of them out there. And if there was 16 inches, then those fish would not be out there.
Right. You make an excellent point. Brandon, that's a fantastic view. I agree with you 100%. And please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. Captain Brandon Storen from down in Alamorada. It's time to head to the West Coast, but before we go, let's catch a word from the Castaway Hat Company. You know, I bet you don't even remember the days when all us cool kids would rub baby oil mixed with iodine to help us get even darker in the summertime. Being burnt was cool, and even if you weren't a surfing legend, you sure looked the part. Oh, boy, have we paid the price for our vanity. We never knew the skin problems and health damage that awaited us as we grew older. Today's fishermen have the option of being so much healthier in the sun than we ever thought of, thanks in no small part to the Castaway Hat Company, who not only provides our podcasters with Castaway straw hats, but they make the coolest prints on the underside of the brims you ever saw. Now, you may think your Bimini top or T-top blocks the sun, but as an awful lot of us old guys can tell you, you can't have enough protection from sun damage. Do what we do. Put on the sunblock and put on your Castaway straw hat. You'll look the part of today's best anglers, and you'll even be helping the environment. That's because for every Castaway hat sold, the Castaway Company will pay to have 1 pound of trash removed from our waterways. The burning Florida sun won't be roasting your skin, and believe you me, when you age a few years, you'll thank us old guys for the advice. Go to CastawayHatCo.com and get your best sun protection today. Castaway Hat Company, the hat that's helping save our seas. Our thanks to Brandon Storen for a great Islamorada report. Now, time to hit 10,000 islands and find Captain Steve Dahl. Steve, are you with me?
I am. How are you?
I am doing outstanding, my boy. I'm home from Minnesota. Don't go up there, Steve. It was great. No, I got to be honest. It was great. Smallmouths are a lot of fun. You know, we caught a little bit of everything. Tell me how fishing was while I was gone.
It was pretty good. You know, we our redfish bite, you know, while it's not saying October on the calendar, it's a little early. Things are, you know, we talked last week maybe about how things are starting to get a little bit back more on pace as far as calendar. And we're kind of, despite the air temperatures being super, super hot, we're starting to see a kind of a, uptick of the redfish bite. So that's been pretty positive. And I wasn't expecting that. Usually that fires up after we get some cooler weather, and they're around. They're not the big schooling fish, that we get in the fall, and they're not in, big concentrations like they are in the fall, but the bite's a lot better than it probably should be for the conditions. So that's been good.
Steve, I think that there's a lot more factors that go into our fall migrations than we realize. I think days get shorter, sun's from a different angle. I don't think they sit there and say, okay, no, can't leave yet. It's not cool enough. There's several factors.
I do, and I think, I try to always think that water temperature is the biggest trigger of that. I get dispelled on that, year after year, where, Mother Nature just finds a way to adapt, and and it's true. We learned something from Jurassic Park. Nature finds a way.
Yep. You're right.
And it's proven itself time and time again. So the redfish, same thing. The other half of that is, that's currently going on is the trout fishing is fantastic, which is traditionally a cooler water fish for us. Mm-hmm. But we've had a great trout bite all summer long, and so sometimes you just have to go with what Mother Nature gives you, and on the inshore side, that's what we have. We have, you can't complain about it. These are good problems to have, but a lot of guys are looking for, maybe snook or, going to look for those mackerel out, they're going to start schooling up in this pre-fall bite and, and kind of forget about the redfish, and, that's going to be big time in play come, probably another 3-4 weeks. But in the interim, there's fish to be caught, All
right. I've got a question for you.
Sure.
Okay. The regulations, you mentioned the redfish. Of course, we know how tight that is. I think redfish are a huge success story for Florida. I think mullet, I think pompano. I think a lot of fish are, we don't give ourselves enough credit for the management that we're doing. Snook being one of them. Steve, are we winning or losing? 1,600 people a day move to Florida. Is that killing us, or are we bringing our fisheries back with better management?
This is the whole argument, what is progress, if you will, for our economy. And, it's never been stronger. Captains have never been booked more. There's never been as many captains on the water as we have currently.
That's for sure.
And, there's the pie's only so big. I always say that, but the reality is we're, supporting it. Granted, there's a lot of part-time, people out there as well, but the bottom line is, the pure population, we've proven this, not so much, just ecologically, I think we're hurting ourselves, with overdevelopment and, it's just not quaint areas that we used to see. Our fisheries look different. The fishing is less. I mean, we can all attest to that, new opportunities pop up here and there for different species, different times of year, things of that avail. But overall, over a lengthy period of time, 25 years, call it, I'm going to make an argument that, my area is not the, not the area it was, and it's definitely seeing a lot more, fishing pressure, and anglers are getting more, you have more anglers and they're more educated.
You are dead on.
And we Florida Sportsman and, other avenues have provided that stuff, to educate anglers, and, not that, we're necessarily to blame, but the amount of information at our fingertips nowadays versus just 10 years ago is mind blowing, and, that is, is it, a lot of guys are going to say is we've lost the sporting aspect of our craft, and, these are all, good arguments around a campfire or in a bar or something. But the reality is it's definitely changing, and I can't say it's changing for the better. That's regulations, definitely help in some regard, but I think we got bigger problems than just fishing regulations.
I think our regulations help. I think the attitude of the anglers help. Having said that, if a guy goes to the boat dealership tomorrow and buys a 25-foot center console with a trolling motor and a Seymour map, he's just as good a bottom fisherman as I am by Friday. And that's hard for me to deal with, but I know it's the truth.
No, it is. It's so true,
Steve, we always appreciate your thoughts so much, and please tell me we can check with you again next week.
Yeah, I can't wait, Rick.
All right, thanks, Captain Steve Dahl from 10,000 Islands. That means it's Southwest Florida time, and the king of all Southwest Florida, Greg Stamper, is with us. How we doing, Snooky?
I'm doing pretty good overall. It's been a little bit hot. The afternoons, mid-mornings are pretty good, and if you're out there around midnight, it's really nice.
I was going to say, it's a little bit hot. It's like I'm a little bit short. It's really hot, Greg. I mean, it ain't a little bit hot, Cap. What are you catching?
Well, our back bay water has hit 91. So
wow.
If you're not out there at night or first thing in the morning, life gets a little bit tough. Again, we talked about this last time. The guys and gals that are out there at night actually fishing the lakes and doing the bridges are still doing very, very well. They're catching some big snook, tarpon as well. Some of the snook pictures I saw this week from a few of my friends were pushing 40 inches. So these are big fish hanging around our passes. They're eating a lot of these artificials. They're slow rolling these big baits that are basically 5 inches long, big paddle tails. Weighted down, and they're getting into them. But those fish, Rick, are not there in the middle of the day.
No. Yeah, I think it's all. I think you're right. This time more than any other is all about time of day. That sun better not be high in the sky if you want to catch a lot of fish.
No, you're right. The morning bite in the morning for the juvenile tarpon is still happening, but we've had a lot of big bull sharks moving in, and when you get big bull sharks on the flats where the tarpon are, those tarpon get a little bit tough. If you're lucky to get a bait in front of one and he grabs it, you're all good. But after that, kind of like they all wake up and say, wow, that fish was anxious. Let's see what's going on. And you're pretty much one and done as far as that goes. And the nearshore guys move into something that's still happening. They are still doing pretty well on those permit It's an early morning, mid-afternoon, and then be done. We get these storms that move in, and that makes things really tough on everybody, not just because of the fishing, but, there's actual electricity coming out of the sky. So you got to be done by that. I have not talked to too many guys that have been out far for offshore. The guys that have been going out and have gotten it done early in the morning, and they're leaving by 5, 4 in the morning, give or take. They're coming back before the storms. They're having no problems with the snappers, a lot of mangroves, nice fish, nothing crazy, 3-4 pounds. And then they're catching a lot of also things like mutton snapper and yellowtail.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's all about time of day, and we're seeing the same thing up here. You let it get about 3, 4 o'clock, you better have your eye to the west and your radar going because it's coming your way. As always, we appreciate it. I sure hope we get a little cool front here before we talk again, but please tell me we can talk to you again next week.
You got it, Rick. Tight line.
Thanks, Greg. Captain Greg Stamper. Our thanks to Greg Stamper for a great Southwest report. Now, let's hop on up into the start of the Big Bend and check in with one William Toney. William, how we doing?
Doing good here in downtown hot Homosassa.
Homosassa. We need to rename it.
Hot.
We need to rename it Hotasassa.
Hotasassa. We were at the last week of scallop season. There's been a little burst of scalloping. So you got one more weekend left for the diehards or, whoever wants to get out there and get the last of them. But around the Homosassa Channel, there's been some really nice big-sized scallops. And, people aren't getting limits, but when they're that size, if you get 3 or 4 gallons, there's enough to feed the crew.
There you go. I like the sound of that. How about the fishing?
Fishing's been good. Looking at a little bit of schooling redfish happening. Not full on yet. It's just been so hot. 90-degree water. But catching them. I mean, not that you're going out there struggling. We're catching them, but it isn't those big schools that I would expect at this time of year yet.
William, I got to ask you a question. You depend on redfish a lot. Almost all the inshore guides do, no matter what part of the state they're in. And I think redfish is a big success story for us, just like I think pompano and mullet, and there's a number of species. But 1,600 people a day move to Florida. Are we winning or losing, William?
Well, here's the thing, Rick, what I would like to say for the Big Bend, and we've been lucky, and I feel bad for the other parts of the state that have experienced growth beyond what we have. But the last, 3 years, we've seen that growth up here. And the good thing about the Big Bend, I think we've been proactive and trying to protect it. With our commissioners, representatives, and things like that, seagrass preserves, and our limits. And we kind of fought vigorously with the Homosassa Guides Association on not letting the redfish limit go up to 2.
Right.
So, I think that we are probably steady in this area, and it's only because of what else has happened around the other states of Florida, and we've looked at that. And like I said, I hate it when you got blue-green algae in the southwest and southeast part of Florida. And we kind of looked at that. Then all of a sudden we experience all this growth up here. So it's kind of like I try to tell folks, it's like, man, don't think that's just going to be on that part of the state. It could come up. It could happen here at any time. In fact, the Big Bend area of where we are in Citrus County has experienced 10% more seagrass growth in the last 3 years than we have before. But what is the crazy thing? At the mouth of the Suwannee River has been 15% decrease in our seagrasses in the mouth of the Suwannee River, which you're like, if you've ever been up toward Horseshoe or Cedar Key or up there toward, Fowler's Bluff, it's like, why? Why in the world? Well, that big river starts up there in Georgia and flows right through Florida. And it's already got a little bit of that stuff in it that's starting to make that little bit of seagrass die off. So we're kind of a little bit ahead of the game here, so I would say.
I like your thoughts. I really do. One thing that helps us, and it's got to help all of us, is the change in attitude of the anglers.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of that, and I'm seeing guys all the time up here in Northeast Florida. They're saying, I don't care if they leave the limit of redfish at 1 or 2. I'm keeping 1, and that's it. You know, and
Right.
I think that's a real plus for us. William,
Yep.
I want to agree with you. I want to say that we're certainly man for man doing a better job than we did when we were kids. I'll put it that way without a doubt.
I'll give you that. Rick. I'm right there with you. I just hope that we're ahead of the curve up in our area, and that we can make sure that like my children and stuff will get to see it like I was when I was a kid. That's my only hope.
There's a lot more fishermen with a lot more technology than what we had, buddy.
Exactly. If you take that GPS and made it bend and nobody could have it, I think we could go back to the Stone Age and start over. I would love that.
I think I'd vote for it. Cap, we appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I'll be here in downtown Homosassa.
Our thanks to William Toney for a great Big Bend report. Now, before we head out west, let's get a word from Shimano. Now, I'm not sure who first coined the phrase, the only thing saltwater can't destroy is saltwater, but I know what it meant to the engineers at Shimano. That sounded like a challenge, and their response is now on the shelves of Strike Zone Fishing. The new spinning reels are called Twin Power, and they feature the Infinity Drive, which means there's not a fish around that they can't stop. Because of the new heat sink drag system, a wahoo or tuna can run as fast as they want, and you never have to worry about your drag heating up. Even better, the new Twin Powers are built to become the best reels ever at fighting saltwater intrusion. Listen, everybody's heard or experienced some problems with seeing the latest and greatest actually on the shelves of your local tackle shop because of supply problems. Well, I'm here to tell you that Shimano's unique partnership with Strike Zone means that you can always count on finding the latest and greatest lining the shelves of both Strike Zone locations. Our thanks to William Toney for his report on the Big Bend area. Now let's move into Northwest Florida and check in with the Red Snapper King, Captain Kevin Lanier. How we doing, Skip?
Hey, Captain, we're doing really good tonight. How about you?
I'm doing outstanding, my boy. I could use a good cool breeze. I just came back from Minnesota, and it's a little more comfortable up there than it is down here right now.
I can imagine. It's been extremely humid here. So, yeah, don't even want to get outside in the middle of the day.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Tell me about your fishing. Is it holding up, or is the heat shutting you down?
Well, we're not doing much bottom fishing right now. We've had some king trips, and just the other day we were out, got 5 kings and 4 really nice Spanish on a short trip. So there's still fishing to be had. There's some cobia hanging around. There's
good.
some mahi out there. So
right.
There's still stuff to do. Bottom fishing is kind of tapered off because it typically does this time of year when snapper's not in season. But, I know you guys on the East Coast don't like this, but we do have an October season coming up.
Shut up. Nobody wants to hear. Why'd I call you? All right, I got a lot of friends. I didn't need to call you.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm not eligible for that season anyhow. So unless I got jump on in somebody's boat, the federal charters can't fish that.
Oh, how about that? Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, over here they don't differentiate between recreational and charter. It's funny. It's just...
Yeah, I don't know why they do here either. I mean, a recreational fisherman is a recreational fisherman no matter what he rides.
But I'm going to remind the boys over here one more time, I would not trade with you guys. You know what I'm going out tomorrow to catch 20 of?
What's that?
Great triggerfish. You ain't kidding. Oh, they are biting, and I will eat a great triggerfish faster than you can blink an eye, Cap.
Oh, I agree with you, and we get to get our one.
Yep. In what universe does that make sense?
About as much sense as 3 days of red snapper fishing on the East Coast.
No. You gave us too much credit, Kevin. Only 2.
Excuse me.
Only 2.
2 days.
Only 2.
Yeah.
Cap, as always, we appreciate the heck out of the report. Please tell me we can talk with you next week.
Hey, we'll be back next week with bells on.
Captain Kevin Lanier, thank you so much. Can't get out of Florida till we go out the Panhandle. That's where we're going to see Captain Tyler Massey. Tyler, how we doing?
I'm doing good, Rick. How are you guys?
Good. How's your fishing?
Fishing's been, pretty good still. We're getting closer to our transition period from kind of our summer pattern to our fall. We're starting to see a little bit north wind in the morning. We're probably going to see a couple cold fronts here in the next couple of weeks. So, stuff's on the move a little bit, and fishing's going to get pretty good. One thing that we're looking forward to, and we're starting to catch some, is redfish in our bay. These are going to be mostly slot-sized fish, and as the later we get, closer to October, the bigger redfish, the bull reds, are going to move in. But the slot-sized fish we're finding on any kind of structure near our path, whether it's the jetties or there's a few piers and stuff around the path, and they're taking live shrimp, any kind of live bait, really, whether it's a bull minnow, a finger mullet, any of that kind of stuff. So redfish is definitely going to be a good target fish in the next week or so.
Boy, if you close your eyes when you step outside first thing in the morning, you can almost start to feel the cooler weather coming, can't you?
Oh, yeah, you definitely can, but it don't take long for that sun to get up there and change your mind about that.
You ain't wrong about that. I was fishing not too long ago and stepped outside at dawn and thought, I wonder if I ought to get a light jacket. And then an hour later, I was like, oh, God, how am I going to get out of this heat? Yep, I know what you mean.
That's what we're dealing with, too. So, yeah, but the inshore fishing, I'd say redfish is definitely going to be our main target here for a little while.
All right, what's going on offshore? Your feds producing?
No, we're still a little slow on them. I think we're still in that dirty water zone, and we need some clean water to push in. We're getting a little bit of current, that kind of stuff, so maybe it'll clear up. But it's been kind of dead out there, for the last couple of weeks. Hopefully we get some good water before it gets too cold out there, and we'll expect some good fishing. But other than that, it's just been bottom fishing. Scamp groupers are biting pretty good, and on the rocks, and we're catching those, on our edge, anywhere from 200 to 320 or 330 foot. Just fishing natural structure, fishing big rocks, and fishing little live baits right on the bottom. With little cigar minnows, we have some little comb butterbean hardtails. Any kind of little live bait, fish it right on the bottom, out there on the deep rocks, and they're working real well.
Perfect. That's a great report. Tyler, thank you so much, buddy. Please tell me we can check with you again next week.
We'll be here, Rick. We'll see you guys.
All right, I look forward to it. Our thanks to Captain Tyler Massey for a great report, and that wraps up our trip around the state tonight. Hey, I know I've enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed listening to the guys' thoughts on whether we're winning or losing the fisheries battle. Are our fisheries going to get better as we fine-tune regulations, or are we just having too much industry and too much people to overcome the fish we've got? Well, we're going to have to wait and see. I know I'm going to keep right on fishing, but my attitude's a lot different than it used to be, and I know most people's is. Now I'm going to take what I need to eat, and I'm going to leave the rest behind. And hey, thanks so much for listening this week. Do me a favor. Go online and let us know what you think about the Action Spotter. Go to the Florida Sportsman Facebook page. Leave a question that our experts ask. I thought of a question for next week. We'll see if we're going to use it or not. Is it time to quit keeping line class records? Do we need to quit fighting fish on light tackle with all the increase in sharks we've had? Good question. This week's Action Spotter and all our Action Spotters are brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, always the best chum on earth, all right. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream billfish destination. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. By Young Boats, you want the finest in flat, spay, and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. By the Castaway Hat Company, the hats that help and save our seas. And by Academy Sports and Outdoors, right stuff, low prices every day. Hey, until next week, I'm Captain Rick Riles for Florida Sportsman, and I'll see you on the rip.